Welcome to the KDC Martial Arts Self-Defense Series. As always, the techniques and skills shown should only be done under the supervision of a qualified instructor. Okay, in this video, which we're going to call Putting It All Together, we're going to take the things that we've learned in our first 3 episodes, our open hand strikes, our blocking skills, and we're going to start putting those things together. So we're going to add blocking skills into a counter-strike offensive using our open hand strikes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move on to using our strikes as a way to intercept incoming attacks and use our blocking skills if we get counter-strike attacks being thrown back at us. So this is what we're going to do to start. However, keep in mind that these basic strikes that we're utilizing are absolutely based on the 3 basic strikes of boxing: the jab, the cross, and the hook. So if you are more comfortable throwing these techniques with fists rather than open hands, you're welcome to go ahead and do that. First, a quick review on what we learned from those open hand strikes. Remember, we're keeping our hands open to use the meatier part of our hand when we're striking to hopefully reduce the amount of damage we do to the small bones in our hands, which can happen when you're striking with a closed fist. Also, things like the extension from the fingers, extra length to reach soft targets like the eyes, and having open hands, using the palm like a cup to land on things like the ears to do additional damage to those structures, because those are soft targets and easier to damage. You don't need a fist to damage those. So we want to keep those things in mind as we proceed forward. So as we go through the first part of the exercise, we're going to work on just moving around and utilizing those first 2 strikes, that jab coming out. And if we're using the finger jab, remember that we keep our fingers tight so that we don't isolate a single finger and end up getting it jammed. But keeping our fingers tight allows us to have strength. We're using our fingers in this formation so that we kind of have the buddy system going on to keep our fingers stronger. And then we'll reach that out, striking at the eyes, following up immediately with palm heel strike to the center of the face where we're targeting things like the nose or the chin. This way, again, we can hopefully do some damage either to their breathing or potentially even scoring a knockout if we can hit them in the right spot on the chin. Practice the timing of somebody coming in a situation where we might be moving around and then throwing that 1-2. We want to keep in mind that we always want to be paying attention for any potential incoming punches so that our block is always ready in between our sets of strikes, that we can always return to a blocking position, or we're moving our feet around enough that we're staying out of that initial range so that we don't get retaliation strikes landing against us after we throw ours. So we want to keep that in mind. We want to work on getting that range, work on getting that timing. Next, we're going to move on to those wider swinging punches that we're using, the hook style punches. We're going to do that again with our open hand. We're targeting things like the ears. Once again, we're going to move around a little bit so that we can work on getting our range and our timing for how do we land that punch, how do we land that strike to the ear in that moment. And again, always keeping in mind that we're looking out for any counter strikes that the other person may be willing to throw, so we're always ready to go back into some kind of blocking position at a moment's notice. But we really want to work on our footwork and our timing for how we might be able to land that shot. Make sure that it goes back and forth. Okay. Again, you always want to work on it in a way that feels comfortable for you. What works well for you? Do you feel like you're working well with the center punches? Then you're going to concentrate more on those. If you're feeling like you're working well with those looping punches, you're going to work more with those. And really figure out what combinations of punches work best for you and what you're most comfortable with. Don't overly pattern it, but you do want to create, like I said initially, a pattern to work with, because that will make things easier for you to do it as a consistent drill and to also help you work on your form. So now quickly we're going to go over the blocking side of things. So we've got our brush back block, and we want to make sure that we're working on the structure for that. We bring that hand up behind the ear to the base of the skull, and our other hand up underneath so that we have this kind of structure that creates this temporary shield that we can hide behind when a large looping punch comes around from the sides. And we want to make sure that we understand that we can do this on either side, whatever side we're most comfortable with. And if our structure is correct, we really only need to master it on one side in order to actually effectively block both sides. So now, as we're working on our blocking, we want to remember to keep our feet moving. We want to use our footwork to help us in our blocks. Maybe we're moving forward, maybe we're moving back, maybe we're moving to the side. But we want to always make sure that we're moving. And so we want to always make the person throwing strikes at us have to chase us a little bit. We know where we're going, they don't. So now we're moving on to the catcher's mitt block or the parrying blocks, where we're either catching things or we're slapping things off to the side as we move. Again, our footwork is going to be vital for us in this moment. And this is going to be a lot more for those straight punches, those punches that are coming right up the middle, so that we can kind of move offline. So that's what it's all about. So we want to have our partner throwing those straight punches at us, coming right up the middle, so we can practice moving around, right? And then the idea is that we're going to put all of this together. We're going to be having our brushback blocks combined with our catcher's mitt blocks, so that we can both handle looping punches and straight punches in varying combinations. As we're doing this is we want to break our pattern up. We don't want just 1 and 2 and 3 and 3. We want to make sure that we're having it where maybe we throw a couple of jabs first and then we throw the cross. Maybe we throw a couple of hook shots on the left side, followed by one shot on the right side, and vice versa. So we're going to be creative in how we do that, create a little extra strikes here and there. It's still going to be patterned initially, so that we and our partners can get used to what we're working with, and then eventually we're going to break away from the patterns altogether. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to break up some of these patterns, and we're going to introduce a couple extra pieces of equipment. So besides our eye protection and our mouth guards, we're going to put on some headgear and some gloves just to make sure we don't get injured. But now we're going to do a little bit more freeform. So we're going to move around a little bit, and we're going to feed the other person some strikes, and let the other person make the decision on blocking. So keeping in mind how we're moving our feet, remember that moving forward towards somebody cuts off their power and gives you more chances to immediately counter-strike them because you're closer to that person. But obviously the disadvantage is you're immediately closer to that person, which means they can also hit again more easily and potentially grab a hold of you and turn the situation into something else. Moving away from the person makes blocking easier and may even move away enough that that person misses their punch altogether, which is fantastic, but you've also created more distance between you and that person. So the idea of being able to counter-strike them at that moment is much more difficult because you're further away. So there's advantages and disadvantages for how you move your feet, and you want to work on the timing of it all so that you can start to see what those advantages and disadvantages are. How do I move in such a way that gives me what I want? I want to get away, I want more distance, then I'm going to be moving back, or I'm going to be moving to the side. I want to be able to go in and hit back right away, then I'm going to be moving more forward and into the person as I do this. So this is what we want to work on. We want to work on that timing so that we can figure out what works best for us. As always, the techniques and skills shown should only be done under the supervision of a qualified instructor.